happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with Joe's Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him, and we're talking NBA. So I'm joined by my man Sports Talk Terry on all social media platforms. Everett Terry Jr. What's good, ET?
What's going on, man? How you?
I'm well, man. I took a shot from you during our little pregame or pre-show conversation talking about the Spurs will not catch OKC. You just had to
No, they
throw
won't.
that in there, but it's okay. I'm still standing. I'm fine. You know what I mean? I'm still here. Uh, we talked about a bunch of things, but I want to jump back into the Spurs conversation real quick. You mentioned that Wemby is hurt. I didn't know it was that serious. I watched a little bit of the game, but I haven't followed up. Busy day. Is it what update do you have with that? Is he gone for a significant amount
Day
of
to day
time?
with a rib contusion, could miss a game or two. I mean, he needs to play 2 games at 20 minutes or more to be eligible for all the postseason awards. I think they'll find a way to get him in there. They don't want to deny him that, especially with the year he's had. But it's weird. It's crazy that these little accidents like this happen. Even Luca last week, gets a hammy injury. He's going to miss the rest of the regular season. Had a monster tear for like 2.5, 3 weeks where he was just lighting the world up.
Yeah.
And now none of that matters. It's so many different things going on where it's like the rules in the NBA, they're too rigid. They need to be more, case by
Uh,
case basis.
that. So let's jump right into that then. So you mentioned Luca, you mentioned Wemby, postseason awards, the
Hell of a
scuttlebutt right
segue.
now in the league. Go ahead, say again.
I said hell of a segue.
Yeah, you set me right up for that. Scuttlebutt is pretty much everyone is upset about the minimum rules, the minimum games rule in order to qualify for MVP and things of that nature. And before I go on my diatribe, I'm going to open the floor to you. The question for you is simple: do you think the NBA should? You kind of answered this, but I'm going to give you a whole situation, a whole platform, a whole segment to go ahead on and rant. Do you think the NBA should change the minimum games rule?
So it's a yes and a no. I
It
don't
can't be
think that
yes
the
or no. It's
NBA
yes
needs.
or. You're not a
Well,
woman,
no,
so it's yes or no.
because yes, they should, but no, they shouldn't. And here's why. I don't think the league has a issue with the minimum games. I think the league has an issue with guys sitting out games that they could play. So there's the caveat.
Talk to me.
This goes back to the conversation we had segments before where we talked about guys missing games because of phantom injuries or rest or just injury load management. You don't take those things into consideration, then these things aren't issues. I think they need a minimum games rule because then a guy like Joel Embiid, who the one year played like 60 games and could have won MVP, didn't qualify because he didn't have enough games in by like five or
And
six
talk to
games
me.
and could have won it that year, was dominant, but didn't hit the games rules. But that goes back to my point. If you don't give him load management, if you don't sit him out, if you don't rest him, et cetera, et cetera. If he has a legitimate injury, doctor verified, league confirms, and he's going to be out for a period of time, okay. But if it's just day to day, he's just out because he has a headache or he's sick or he doesn't want to play, nah. Those things need to be factored in. It's kind of like at work. You get a certain amount of time for sick and a certain amount of time on PTO. And once you exhaust it, it's unpaid. It's the same rule of thumb. You're going to pay these guys because their contracts are guaranteed. But maybe instead of saying we're going to penalize you for not playing, we're just going to incentivize you better to play versus sitting out. And so maybe this is the way to do it. I think the league just has to find a middle. I don't know that depriving guys who played hard for 64 games out of an 82 game season shouldn't have an opportunity to be eligible for postseason awards simply because of the fact that, he caught a hamstring injury like Luca did, who was lighting the world on fire for 2.5, 3 weeks. And now it's going to miss the regular season because the playoffs mean more.
You familiar with Puka Nakua?
Yep.
All right, wide receiver for the Rams.
Drinking
Fifth round
problem
draft
guy.
pick. Second?
The guy with the drinking problem just checked this off in the rehab. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. He's got a drinking problem. He's also up for a contract extension, and he's trying to get the facade that he's working. But just follow me on this walk. So Puka was a fifth round draft pick. He exceeded the
Mm-hmm.
Rams' expectations by far. Exceeded
Mm-hmm.
every expectation. When they were going into the conference championship game, they didn't think about benching him. He didn't have a problem then. When they were going into playoff clinching games, didn't think about benching him. Didn't have a problem. It wasn't until it came time to pay him that all of a sudden they've got questions. I take you there to bring you here. The players want to complain that they need to have more games, or they shouldn't have to play a minimum of games. And the owners say you have to play a minimum of games because we are paying you to play an entire season and you're not paying. However, the owners' organizations play a part in sitting these players. So in the case of Puka, now that it's time to pay him, the people who have to pay him have an issue. In the case of the players, now that it's time that their checks are synced into these awards, they don't want to have to pay the piper, pay the devil for sitting out these games. So the two correlation is this. When it comes time to get the money, everybody's got an issue with the rules. No, they should not change the minimum games. No, they should not change the minimum games. You know what the players need to do? They need to work harder in the offseason to stay healthy. Period. I would love a system that pays the players per game, much like the NFL. You get a game check. The problem is if you're a reserve player and you don't get to play because it's a DNP coach's decision, then you don't get a check.
You should still get a check. That's the coach's fault.
Yeah, but that's my point. Now you're not paying guys per game. Now you're making decisions. Well, he should have played the coach and pay him. So you can't really have that rule, which per game. But there needs to be a system in place where the players get a per game check. There's no way to do that, but you can take away their bonuses because they're not playing. Just like you can try to, if you're Puka, you can take away his money by saying, "Oh, we got questions about him." You're penalizing guys.
He's gonna get paid though.
Yeah.
See, the only problem with your argument
It's not an argument. It's not an argument. Hold on, let me clear it up because it's a little. It's not an argument because I side with Puka and I say trade him. If you got questions, trade him because there's other teams that will pay him. So if you got issues with him, trade him. You don't have issues, you just don't want to pay him. The situation,
it's negotiating.
Situation with the players is they don't have an issue with the minimum games. They have an issue with the fact that they can't get the money that's tied into the minimum games. Because now if Luka gets he's eligible for like a quadruple ridiculous contract extension. If he wins an MVP award, he makes an all NBA team. Well, it's unfortunate he got hurt. And there's always aberrations, there's always anomalies. But the bottom line is work harder in the offseason to be healthy. Players are better than players 10 years ago, right? They have access to more resources for their health than players 10 years ago.
Hold on for a quick second. You're talking about Luka Doncic or Puka Nacua? Those are two different people.
No, I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about the players and the owners' issues with the systems that they. I
understand that, but I'm saying, are you talking about Puka Nacua or Luka Doncic? Those are two different people because you initially said Puka. That's why I was confused. I was like, well, that's football. That's a totally different sport. Yeah, he's going to get paid.
I was using Puka as an example of it hurting the owners and the players, and the players as an example of it hurting the players. Meaning the owners took a guy in the 5th round. The Rams took a guy in the 5th round who exceeded all expectations. Now it's time to pay him, and they want to try to use some loophole to not pay him. In the NBA, they have guys who are sitting out, and now the players are mad because they can't get paid. So they want to take away the loophole that the owners are using to not pay them. And on both situations, I'm saying this. In the case of Puka, that's a situation where the owners are basically muddling his name. Oh, we got questions. I should say owners. The Rams are muddling his name. Oh, we got questions. We got issues with him. In the case of the players just aren't playing. They screwed themselves in this.
Go ahead. All right, two things. One, the only reason why the Puka thing doesn't really correlate here is because Puka Nacua is a top 3 wide receiver in football who's absolutely going to get paid no matter what. The Rams, whatever they're doing, are negotiating with whatever stuff they're doing behind the scenes, him playing, him not playing. Him checking into rehab was a him thing. He did that on his own, and the team is still behind him and whatever the case may be because he has a drinking problem. All right, cool. The team ain't tell him to drink. The team ain't put them drinks down his throat. He did that. Cool. All right, whatever. He's cleaning up, getting himself together. It may hurt his money a little bit, but he'll still get his contract. And the issue with the NBA,
it shouldn't hurt his money at all. Shouldn't hurt his money at all.
Hold on. Right, because he performed. But in the case of a guy like not being able to play in the NBA, the difference with the NBA and the NFL is the players have more power in the NBA than the guys in the NFL do. And so I'll give you an example. And it's weird to me because all things considered, it probably shouldn't be this way. But Joel Embiid recently said, hey, I wanted to play and they wouldn't let me.
Yeah, that was crap.
And I wanted
to get into that later. That was crap.
Which we will. But they said it was because of injury management. Again, comes back to that load management thing. He said it wasn't that. He was fine to play. He's been playing the same way all season. He thinks it's because he missed film session, which at this point in his career, he still shouldn't be missing. But, stupid as it stupid does. Be all that as it may, the point I'm making is that guys in the league, we agree they need to find a middle with guys sitting versus guys playing versus game checks versus not game checks. I don't know that a guy not getting an MVP or a DPOY or all NBA is tied directly to them necessarily saying, "Oh my God, I want to get more money." I think it's a prestigious award that carries a bonus in their pay. Their pay in the back end of things, yeah. But like Cade Cunningham is an All NBA guy. He's not going to get it because he had a heart condition, which is a
Yep.
rare thing. It wasn't something crazy. He had a heart condition and he's fighting to get back just because he wants to make all NBA first team as he should. And it sucks because look what he had to do to get it when he's having a stellar year on one of the best teams in basketball. But that's a freak injury. It's different than, oh, he has a sickness or an illness like the Utah Jazz have been doing all year with like Lauri Markkanen. Every other day he has a sickness or an illness or load management or injury management. And he's just sitting out games because they're tanking to try to get a high pick. That's way different than a guy has a freak issue with his heart. You're worried about him turning into Reggie Lewis or Hank Gathers on the basketball court, and you don't want him to play. Those aren't the same. And I understand and respect the fact that the league has a delicate balance between player safety and guys wanting to play, but also trying to put a good product on the floor because fans pay money to come and see the stars. They don't come to see the 12th man on the bench. I mean, have you seen the slop some of these teams have put out here with these 40 and 40 point blowouts we've been watching because they've got these borderline G League guys out there running around trying to make the roster by playing well, jacking up shots, not really playing an offensive scheme because their stars are all sitting if they're out of the mix. I mean, when's the last time Washington put a competitive squad on the floor? And they got a team now that next year will look competitively good on paper, but the guys that can play, they're sitting or they're calling them out or you know what I mean? Even if they're not all the way out for the season, oh, well, we'll just mark you out and let you rehab all season. See, to me, that's where the issue is. But that comes from, again, ownership. Ownership doesn't necessarily want these guys to play these games because, like, to your point, if they hit the bonuses that they qualify for, now they got to pay them. They don't want to pay them, so they'll keep them out. They'll still get their game check, but they won't qualify for anything else, and that sucks. I don't like
Okay.
it. I don't know where the balance is. That's the
There is
problem.
no balance. There is and analogy aside, all right. My bigger issue is this: the rules are the rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you're late for work, you don't get to exceed the speed limit.
Of
Damn it,
course.
I'm late for work. You know what I mean? And I don't want to simplify it that much, but that's pretty much the case. There are always going to be extenuating circumstances where the rules may hinder you, or it's not fair that wasn't thought into, or it's not right that wasn't thought into the equation when they created the rule. However, the rule is for the masses, not for the individual. And
Mm-hmm.
players missing games is the reason why you now have a minimum game. It used to be a badge of honor to play 82 games in the regular season.
I agree.
Now people want to play 82 seasons. That doesn't help anybody. Like that's
Nah,
I mean,
just LeBron. Just LeBron
no,
wants to do
well,
that.
no, Kevin Durant's up there too, brother. Paul George is up there. I mean, Paul George has played
Ain't
60.
none of them dudes 40.
Yeah,
LeBron only
no,
40-year-old running
but the
around in the
point is
NBA.
that's the badge of honor to play to maximize your career instead of maximizing each season. That's the issue I have, and that's why I don't think they should change the rule. And I'm gonna double down on the sucker. I feel like they need to raise it. I really do. And teams that are putting out bad products and everything, that's a whole nother argument. That's a whole nother because now you're talking about poor talent evaluators, GMs that shouldn't be GMs, coaches that shouldn't be like that's a whole nother situation. Like the fiasco that happened in Chicago and all that stuff. That's a whole nother discussion. We're talking simply minimum games. No, not only do sound like Sam Jackson. I hope they ride in hell. But no, not only do I not want them to change the rule, I wish they would up it because these guys pro player in everything. I am pro player in everything except one thing. Players not playing games. In the NBA, players not playing games because they either physically aren't able to or because they have other stuff go, whether they're suspended or whatever, drives me crazy. It always has. I don't think it's a problem in sports. I just feel like in the NBA, there's a culture created, or there's been a culture created where it's okay to not play. Kawhi Leonard is the guy that everyone points to. And I'm going to give you the mic after this. Kawhi Leonard is the guy everything points to. And Kawhi has the greatest quote ever with this. He said, when I wasn't playing, it's because I physically couldn't play. I never sat out of a game I could physically play in. So he was just hurt a lot. That sucks because Kawhi's a tremendous player. And B coming out and saying, I want to play, they won't let me play because he's always hurt, is the problem. Because he can't stay healthy. They're trying to find ways to manipulate him to get him to stay healthy. He either can or he can't. And if he can't, you got to move on, period. Luka getting hurt is terrible. As a Luka fan, as a guy that I pound the pavement for, it sucks. You as a Lakers fan, it sucks. But dude, such is life. Such is life. And Luka's going to do everything he can to get healthy. Going back years ago, Kobe going a monster tear. Because this is the first thing I thought about. Kobe on a monster tear. And then has a monster Achilles tear. It is never the same player again.
Stay in the game, shot the free throws, though.
It sucks. Dude, it's awful. It's awful. But such is life. Like you either get right in the offseason to go the duration of 82 games or you don't. If you don't prepare your body to go 82 games, you're not going to go 82 games. It's just that simple. Floor is yours.
Actually, I agree with you. They don't galvanize their body enough in the offseason to be prepared for the regular season. Back in the day, and I hate using that word, that phrase, because it sounds so archaic. But the thing is, guys played against each other all off season. They stayed in shape. They conditioned. Now these guys take vacations and they travel the world and they do their other ventures and they get their business pads and their podcasts.
And that's their right. They can do that. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to say that. They can do that. But here's where you pay.
This is what I was saying. You can do, and you're welcome to do all of that and enjoy the money and the life of luxury that you have. But the difference between good and great, the greats never stop working. The greats consistently find ways to stay ahead of the fray versus just doing what everybody else is doing. They work when nobody else is working.
And when they're filming a movie, they create a freaking basketball court so they can work out while they film a movie and then invite NBA players that are in the peak of their careers, the apex of their powers, to come work out with them. That's what the great ones do. Look, I know they have runs with Rico Hines runs in UCLA, and that's great. We all see the footage. And I know they have other little runs that they do. But you cannot convince me that with all the resources available in the world, these guys cannot afford. And I'm not talking about the freak injuries, because those always happen. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tore his hamstring, or tore his hamstring against the Sixers years ago, and Magic steps in and a star is born. Those things happen. But the fact of the matter is, it happens too much. And when you start taking precautions to avoid an injury, when you don't go the speed limit because you don't want to get in an accident, but you want to be in the fast lane, slowing everybody else up, I have an issue with that. No, they should not lower the rule. No, I want them to up that sucker. I want it to 72 games. 72 games, I think, should be the minimum. You'd be surprised how many guys would make 72 games if it was tied into 30, 40, and $50 million. You'd be surprised how many guys can make it. Fortunately, Cade Cunningham got hurt, and the story will be that he just didn't make it. We're going to talk about two guys that are poster child for wasted opportunity. Cut you off, and I'm gonna give you the floor again. I just want to. I think people jump the gun here and say, they use the catastrophic injury to try to say, oh well, to justify a point. No. Paul George missed a bunch of games because he was on that stuff. Joel Embiid misses a bunch of games. He doesn't make it a film session because he doesn't take his profession seriously enough to do it. He took it serious to get his butt in the NBA, and once he's got in the NBA, he hasn't been healthy. We got videos of the dude eating cheeseburgers on the sidelines. I'm not crying for Argentina. No, they shouldn't up the limit. I'm done. Final word to you.
Let's move on. Let's pivot.
All right. So we're talking about injuries, and two of my favorite players all time. Well, I won't say all time, but two of my favorite players coming out of the draft, guys that I thought were going to be franchise-leading players until the ping pong landed in New Orleans and the other ping pong ball landed in Memphis. Ja Morant and Zion Williamson. As we ramp up, We were just talking about Cade Cunningham, former #1 pick. We talk about guys that have played in the NBA who were top draft picks. Ja Morant was the second pick in the draft. He's played 7 years in the NBA. This stat blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. He's never played more than 67 games ever. In fact, he's only played 67 games twice. In the last 4 seasons, he's played 60, or he's played 59, 9, 50, and 20 games. That's insane, eh? That's insane. When you look at Zion Williamson, which is it's even worse there. Zion's missed the
Oh,
whole season. Zion at least played 70 games once. Last 4 seasons, 29, 70, 30, and 55. We got 6 seasons and 7 seasons. Zion's issue was so many things, but I feel like I've said before, I'm pro player. I feel like the organizations let both of these guys down. They didn't. These organizations should not have gotten those talents, plain and simple. But the question for you, my guy, is it too late for these players to lead an NBA franchise to a title? Not too late to be all-stars. Not too late to be franchise players. But is it too late for these guys to, like, let's say they go to the right organization finally? Can they turn their careers around, and lead these teams to an NBA title?
if you take a junkie out of Kensington and
Oh,
move that junkie to the Northeast, it's still a
cocaine is
junkie.
still a powerful drug. Yep.
The point I'm making is mindset matters. Ja Morant wants to be a social media fake gun-toting superstar. He wants to go viral for all the wrong reasons. Zion Williamson wants to spend his life eating crawfish and knocking down porn actresses off of Instagram. These guys don't
I
have
can't
dreams.
co-sign that. I can't co-sign that.
Listen. They go right there with Ben Simmons, a guy who wanted to spend all his time chasing up Kardashians and being famous and not playing ball. We talked about how greats want it when nobody else does. Ja Morant don't want it. Zion don't want it. Ben Simmons definitely don't want it. Those are 3 guys who right now should be the creme de la creme of the NBA in terms of their talent coming into the league and where they would be at in their professional careers if they had the same work ethic of a Giannis or the same work ethic of a Wemby, who literally came out and said, "I hate everyone. I want to dunk on and beat everyone." He said, "I go in the gym and I work out because I want to be better than everyone. I don't want to trade jerseys. I don't want to smile after games. I ain't doing that. I'm here to win." That's what you want for your organization. And I don't care where you move Ja Morant to. He don't got that mindset. I don't care where you move Zion to. He don't got that mindset. Ben Simmons ain't even playing pro ball right now because he don't got that mindset. When your mindset isn't, "I'm not doing any and everything I can to help the team that is giving me millions of dollars to win," you don't have the mindset of wanting to be great. And so it doesn't really matter if you move them to New York or move them to LA or move them to Miami. It doesn't matter where you move them because the mindset has to change first. If the mind ain't right, it don't matter where you move the body. And that's the problem with those 3 guys. And I drag Ben into it because Ben right now should be a perennial all-star, top 10 all NBA defensive player. And in every conversation about why the Sixers aren't in the Eastern Conference Finals every single year, because the Sixers would have never let him go. Instead, he's sitting at home in one of his 4 or 5 Lamborghinis in a driveway in LA somewhere, living his best life. Ja Morant is like a half baby step from being in the G League. Somebody will take a flyer on him because he's young and talented, but nobody wants the antics, the headaches, the locker room issues that come with them. Zion Williamson, while he doesn't have the external issues that Ben Simmons does with his off the court antics, or Ja Morant with the gun toting and all of that, hasn't really done or said too much that's publicly embarrassed New Orleans Pelicans. He can't stay healthy. And when he is getting blasted on social media, it's by some porn star IG actress. Quote, quote. Like, my man, get your affairs in order. It doesn't matter where you live. If you can't have more control of your hormones, I don't care if you're 20, 30, or 55, you're going to have problems in life. Go talk to Anthony Edwards and ask him how to control your hormones. He had to cut a whole $1 million check for a chick because he ain't had nothing to do with her. Did it stop him from going ahead and being great? No, but he learned how to temper his emotions and stay out of the mix because he wants greatness. And there's no reason Ja Morant and Zion Williamson shouldn't be in the same breath as Anthony Edwards in terms of top talents in the league. The game is there, but the mindset, the heart, the will, the determination is not. And so you keep arguing, oh, the organization's failed, the organization. No, they failed themselves. They did exactly what Joel Embiid did. He got in the NBA, got his money, and got comfortable. Ben Simmons got in the NBA, got his money, got comfortable. Ja Morant got in the NBA, got his money, got hella comfortable. Zion Williamson came in the NBA before he got in the NBA, was comfortable, then got really comfortable. These are mindsets. And you know what it is? Every single one of those, unfortunately, with the exception of maybe Ben Simmons, all of those guys grew up in a situation where they weren't wealthy. They weren't well off. They weren't from a place where they were living a lofty life or comfortable. Like Bronny, he had a comfortable life. He still had the work ethic to want to get it in on his own. Now, the talent ain't there, but if you gave Bronny James, Zion Williamson, or Ja Morant's talent, he'd be a top player in basketball because he wants it. He doesn't want to be his dad's son. He wants to be Bronny James on his own. And I respect that. That's why when people rip him, I don't want to hear the slander because he's got more heart than the guys in the league who went first round. They just don't have the work ethic. They've got the talent, but they don't got the work ethic. And you know what you learn in the NBA? Hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard.
You
That's
love
the
to say
problem.
that. A couple things to unpack there. So I'm going to ask again. Are you saying it's too late for all of them? Well,
Absolutely. They're not,
not Ben
they
Simmons.
20 some
Obviously, it's
years
too late
old
for
doing the
Ben.
same thing their whole life.
Obviously, for Ben Simmons, it's way too late. I don't know why I said all of them. So you're saying it's too late for Zion and Ja.
Yes, their minds, until their minds change, nothing else matters.
I don't know. We disagree on the power of a bad organization. With each individual situation, there's context, but unfortunately, there's consistency there. And the consistent factor is each guy mentally was not as strong as they needed to be. I will agree with you that. I will agree with you there. However, it's an equation. Poor mental state, bad organization, bad results. And the bad organization to me is the bigger number. It's the bigger reason. You know, I feel like in the case of Ben Simmons, it was a bad organization. The Sixers, there were situations going on behind the scenes, which we know about. People can Google on the thing with the Hawks and their organization, with the Hawks and the coaching staff. But the bigger issue is the comment that my favorite coach made, combined with the way that they handled Embiid and the way that Embiid was absolved of anything, created just an atmosphere that wasn't good for Ben, and Ben mentally wasn't prepared to handle it. Zion, and Ja are in bad organizations. Memphis is a bad organization. It's a bad.
You can't keep
You can shake
saying
your head
that.
all you want. You can shake your head. Hold on. You can shake your head and say it and all you want. Memphis is a poorly run organization. New Orleans is a poorly run organization. Do the guys should Zion and Ja step up? Yes. Should have they made mistakes? 100%. You are correct. Hey, you are 100% correct. However, the bigger number is the organizations. Someone, we have this thing in society. We're fathers. I got 8 minutes, so just let me tie this up and I'll give it back to you. We have this thing in society where if you're 24 in the real world, it's okay to be a screw up. Most 24-year-olds live at
Who the
home
hell
with
says that?
hold on. Most 24-year-olds live at home with their parents, or better yet, no one cuts their eye at the 24-year-old that lives at home with their parents for rent free and screws up. They say, oh, he's got to get it
As a
together.
man?
He's got to get it together. He'll get it there. Most people say that. In professional sports, a 24-year-old has to be perfect. They're not allowed to make mistakes. They're not allowed to be 24 years old. Zion and Ja are 20-year-olds who made bad mistakes. Somebody needed to step in and consistently create an environment where those mistakes could not be redundant. That didn't happen. They were put on an island in bad organizations. In Zion's case, you said he likes to eat crawfish. He likes to eat a lot of things. That's what got his waking. Nobody in that organization stepped up and held him accountable. They may have sent him mean text messages, but they never held him accountable. Ja, there's so many things that went wrong there. But the fact of the matter is their talent yielded them the opportunity to be top picks. And you're never going to convince me that if Ja Morant or Zion Williamson are with the Lakers or with the Miami Heat, give me another organization, the San Antonio Spurs, that you don't get the most out of them. They don't reach that potential. There's a reason why those organizations always get the most out of their guys because of the structure. Floor is yours.
First things first. Every time you say Memphis is a bad organization, I find it cringy. I find it cringy because guys like Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, the prime of Zach Randolph's career, and he was listed as a knucklehead who was a trouble case, a basket case, a not good player, a not good locker room guy. Went on and had the best years of his career in Memphis, perennial playoff team, consistent title contender. So I don't know how they went from all of that to some
They
organization
were
who can't
never a
draft and invite.
consistent title
Oh,
contender. They had
oh,
one good
hold on.
season when they beat the Spurs. Go ahead.
Let me finish. They were consistently in the playoffs. They were consistently considered a top Western team. The point I'm making is they don't go from that to this poorly run organization that can't seem to evaluate talent. Wrong. They just didn't draft the guys who should have been there. Like Ja Morant doesn't go there. He's going to make the same mistakes no matter where he go because it's mindset. He got a daddy who does the same thing that you're doing, coddling and not holding him accountable.
No, I
He
don't.
needs
I
to be.
don't.
Hold on, hold on,
I
hold on.
disagree with that. I disagree
Let
with
you
that.
rip. I'll let you rip. I'll let you rip. His dad doesn't do anything to help him be a better man at
You don't
all.
know that. You don't know that.
We can tell from his actions that he don't.
No, but you
He
don't
showed
know
up.
that. They don't
He
listen.
shows up on the floor. He
Children
shows up on
don't
the floor and
listen.
acts as much of a fool as he does.
Hold on. I can't let you run with that because children don't like. His dad is still in the picture. His dad is still there. You don't know for
Nobody
a
said his
fact his
dad
dad
wasn't in
is
the
some.
picture. I'm saying
Hold
his
on.
dad doesn't
But you
help him to
don't know
make
that
better
his father didn't
decisions.
tell him that those weren't bad decisions. You don't know
And the
that.
point the point I'm making to you, and the point that I'm making to you is if that's the case, his dad needs to set an example. His dad was at the game arguing with people, getting into it with folks at the game. What example is that telling your son you need to be a good example because you represent an organization? No different than he represents him. But he out there making bad decisions. Why on God's earth do you think people are going to give him the benefit of the doubt? Think he's telling his son not to make bad decisions? He making bad decisions as a grown man. You want to say here and say, okay, Josh, 20 something, he doesn't really know, blah, 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 blah. He, da, da, da. He's got his father, his first role model and male influence in his life around him every day at every game, making poor decisions around him. What chance does
Same
he have of
father
making
who
good
got him
decisions?
to the NBA from Murray State that made him one of the top talents in the NBA. You can't
What does
have
that
one
have to do with
without
what I'm
the other.
saying? What does that have to do with what I'm saying? You're speeding past all the facts. All of that can be true, and still everything I'm saying be true. He got him into the NBA and has cut a fool many times in the NBA. There's no reason we should know who Ja Morant's dad is. No reason. No
I
reason we
dis
should say,
I
oh,
disagree
there's
with
his
that
dad
too.
in the
I
news making
disagree with
Sports
that
Center
too.
again because he's arguing with somebody. He's going back and forth with somebody on the sidelines. He cussing people out. That's not an example you set. You want to be an example? Show your son how to be a man in a man's world. You sat here and said 24-year-olds are cool at home. 25 years old, I was married with a 750 FICO scoring kids. I don't know where you are when you think 24 years old, you could be at home and be okay to figure it out. I don't know anybody 24 who was in that spot.
You were the aberration, and we can go through that. But the point I was trying to make is no one expects a 24-year-old to have it all together. And
No,
that
and I'm not saying that he has to.
Yeah, but that's what when you say when these organizations say
I'm asking him not to go around toting guns after you were war multiple times. I'm asking him not to go out and act a fool on social media. Simple things that are in a contract he signed for millions of
has he
dollars.
done those
If
things
you
in the
don't
last? Has
understand
he
the
done those things in
language,
the last? Did he do those things this season? Did he do any of those
because
things
they
this
told him
season?
he's out. He barely plays. What do you
Okay.
mean? What more
So
do you
the answer
want?
is no. So the answer
They're
is no.
taking the money away from him. Absolutely.
So
He
the
doesn't
answer is no.
qualify for
No,
anything
his
because he don't
check's
play
still
enough
cleared.
games.
His check's still cleared. His check's still cleared.
The game check gonna be the game check regardless. But what I'm
Exactly.
saying to
So
you
they didn't
is,
take anything away from him. The season is still
look at
going.
how his value and his view around the league has plummeted since those incidents. And they gave him grace the first time. They gave him grace the second time. They stopped giving him grace. Because at some point, you can't just keep saying, oh, you got to do better. Oh, you got to learn. Sometimes you got to smack the hand.
All right,
He
let's
didn't
stop right
learn.
there.
So
Stop
now they
right there.
smack
That
the
light.
hand and now he learns.
Stop right there. That light. The value of him went down because he doesn't play. And why doesn't he play?
No,
Why doesn't
because
he
he's
play?
played and he still looks like a malcontent.
No,
Just
he
shooting,
hasn't
shooting,
played.
shooting
He hasn't played.
atrociously.
He's only played 20 games. He
And
hasn't
how
played.
did he look? How did he look in the
And
20
he
games he
hasn't played.
played?
I'm
Did he
sure he
look like
looked
a top
awful
five
because it
point
was
guard?
20 games. I'm sure he looked awful because he hasn't played. So the
I'm
question
asking a
is, what did he
question.
look?
In those 20 games he played, did he look like a top 5 point guard in the league? Like
No,
he did
not at
when he was
all.
at the height.
Not at all. Not at all.
And that's my point.
And
Guess
and
what?
and
Do you think it takes Luka 20 games to show you he's a top 5 point guard in the NBA? No.
I think Luka's had bad stretches, and
You didn't
that's a
answer my
whole.
question.
We're not gonna go into the Luka argument because the
You
question
pick
still remains is
any
this:
top point guard you want. It don't take 20 games to know if they're still a top 5 point guard or not. Pick any one of the top five.
the question still remains is this: is it too late for these guys? And I say, and talking to you just before, I said I don't know. Now, in talking to you with 2 minutes left, I say no, it's not too late for them. believe they go to the right organization, they can turn these things around because the talent is still there. Now, in the case of Ja, there's other things that need to be in place. I acknowledge that. There's other things that need to be in place. I'm not going to dump on a black father. I'm not going to dump on a black father. You can say whatever you want. It's not going to happen. In the case of Zion, and you said a point where there's no reason we should know what we should. No reason why we should know what Ja Morant's father looks like or his name. We knew what Shaq's father looked like. We knew what Michael Jordan's father
Not
looked like.
because he was acting a fool on the sidelines. Not because he
Not
was out there embarrassing him.
It was a different player. And in the case of Jordan, he went to an organization that was a mess and took years to come around. Took multiple people to come around, but he stayed the course. That's not going to happen in Memphis. It's just not. And you have players that bag on Memphis. LeBron just bagged on Memphis. So I mean, it's not like this is an aberration that I'm giving you. It's pretty well received that Memphis and New Orleans are poorly run organizations. I mean, for crying out
I'll
loud,
give
New
you New
Orleans
Orleans
has.
more than I'll give you Memphis. I'll give you New Orleans more than Memphis
I
because
mean,
the
got less than a
greatest
minute.
equalizer is winning. And if you win, things get pressed under the rug. New Orleans has literally like never won. Like since they've been in New Orleans, I think the last time they were even relevant to winning was Chris Paul and that one year that they had DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis on the same team. I think it's the only two times I ever remember New Orleans winning anything.
They
Outside
never
of that, they've
win.
never even won, and even then they were like an 8 seed. But
All right.
outside of that, I don't remember them being a team that was
Okay.
like, "Oh yeah, New
That's
Orleans
it
is
for
in the
this
mix."
episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you like the podcast, make sure you share, comment, subscribe, whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. Everett Terry, Kwame Fisher Jones. Till next week, we appreciate your time here. You be easy.